This ALCS Game 3 Picks edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added Pick'em Scorches. You can win 100x, turn $5 into $500 in one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000. Use the promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Last minute tickets, download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. And finally, don't forget the $3,000 NFL Second Chance Survivor Contest presented by Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties. Free to enter. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. Welcome, everybody, to the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. My name is Malcolm Bamford in Newcastle upon Tyne, northeast of England. Today is Wednesday, the 18th of October. Yes. Yeah, it is, yeah. I got it right, and I'm so used to getting it wrong, I just assumed I was wrong that time. And we are here we'll have a look back at NLCS Game 2, and then we got loads of picks. I've made far too many picks for ALCS Game 3 taking place tonight between Houston and Texas. Joining me from Houston in Texas is Mr. Munaf Manji. Hello, Munaf, how are you?
There's going to be a 1 day or 1 week when we're doing this pod 10 years from now that you're going to get the date and time correct.
I had it that time. I'm doubting myself, Munaf.
Yeah, glad to be here with you. Another day of MLB playoffs in the books yesterday and another day today. So definitely looking forward to it. A lot of I think we've been doing really well through this, at least the championship series thus far. So hopefully we can continue, dominating the books here for tonight and the rest of the week.
Yep, did okay again last night. Myself and Scott handicapped last night's Philly-Arizona game. I've taken my Diamondbacks cap off, Munaf. I think it might be time. They're now out to plus 650 to win that series. So I had a go. I'm still live, but there's not much life left in my little bed. But it's good fun. I've had worse 66-1 shots in my time. Let's say hello to the boys in the chat. Jason was first in. Captain Insano, Andy B. Hello, everybody. Any bets that you like or any thoughts, throw them in there. So, Munaf, last night, Philadelphia 10, Arizona nothing. And Philly take a 2-0 lead in that series. And like I say, they've now gone minus 1,000 to take the NLCS with Arizona out at plus 650.
Mm-hmm.
It was a bit of an odd one because Philadelphia went 3-0 up in the bottom of the sixth, so they didn't really put it too early. Obviously, it got out of the hand pretty quick after that and finished 10-0. But Merrill Kelly kind of threw the exact start that we thought he would. He never deviates too far from the mean. So that started okay. But I know was just lights out and everything else. Philly at home, the big Bears keep showing up for Philadelphia. And in the end, it was a pretty comprehensive win.
Yeah, I mean, Philly, I think I mentioned this when we discussed the National League Championship Series, that Phillies at home since last season, when they made their run, they've just been absolutely a wagon at home in Philadelphia at Citizens Bank Park there. I think they're now 11-2 straight up at home, and I think they've won 11 of those 12 games by at least 2 runs. I think the only 2 losses have come to the eventual World Series champions from last year, the Houston Astros. But yeah, this team is in good form right now. Like you mentioned, their top 2 pitchers, Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola, dominating performances in both games 1 and 2 as usual. The bats have been showing up early for the Phillies. At least, Trey Turner last night, Kyle Schwarber added one, I think, in the 2nd or 3rd inning, and then, like you mentioned, by the time it got to the 6th, 7th inning, that's when it got away from the Diamondbacks. But again, give a lot of credit to the Phillies pitchers, man. This Diamondbacks team, going back to the series against the Brewers and even against the Dodgers, they were scoring runs early. But I think that the pitchers of the Phillies have done a tremendous job of really limiting their bats, especially early on in the game, and the Phillies bats getting the leads for these pitchers. And after that, it's been pretty much history. So the Phillies are halfway there to getting back to the World Series again. So we'll see if the Diamondbacks can steal one or get a game at home, but it doesn't look very likely right now, especially with the way the bats are hitting right now for the Phillies.
Yeah, early runs was one of my picks yesterday. I went for the first 3 innings over 2.5. It wasn't a million miles away. If Arizona could have just chipped in, we'd have got there. But as far as the picks went on the show, I mean, Scott, really straightforward. Philly on the run line, plus 130. Yeah. Which now you look back and you think, actually, they were staring you in the face, really. I'm dancing around. I've got 1,000 different pages open to find a bet. And the obvious one is right in front of you the whole time. But I think we did okay. The rest of the over hit, I know Dylan in the Slack chat was on the over. I took the over. Whereas Zach Wheeler strikeouts over 5.5 hit. That's 2 nights running. We've hit the Phillies picture for the strikeouts. So both of them did okay. One on my Tommy Pham under hits plus 160. That one hit, and Alec Bohm missed. Alec Bohm got a hit late on. So yeah, did okay overall. Game 3 looks like Munaf Ranger Suarez v Brandon Fart. I mean, it's a must-win really for Arizona. They just need to somehow pick themselves off the floor and get one on the board, and then maybe go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Game 3 is it's pretty much got treated like a Game 7 for the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's going to be very difficult, or possibly impossible, I should say, that the Diamondbacks come back and win the series if they get down 3-0. But it just seems like that the Phillies are the hot team right now. They're dominating on both sides of the baseball, like I mentioned, and it looks like they're going to be headed back to the World Series. But we've seen crazier things happen. Don't count them out just yet, but the Phillies are just in the driver's seat right now. Yeah,
absolutely. Matty in the chat is advocating getting your Phillies World Series MVP bets on now, which is a good shout. Get ahead of the curve, get the value in, because this time next week, those prices might look absolutely brilliant. Mm-hmm. So Game 3 ALCS will take place later on. We'll run you through that after I've told you first about the SGPN Survivor contest. So even if you're knocked out, your Survivor, or even if you just want another one to play, Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties are presenting the Second Chance Survivor from SGPN. $3,000 up for grabs, winner takes all. Starts this weekend. Sign up at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. And the NFL Gambling Podcast, guys, is that you, Muna?
Yes, sir.
Yes, you've got an Apple Podcast review with your favourite touchdown-related bet for this weekend. Biggest winner gets a $50 SGPN gift card. Make sure to include your YouTube username in the review so we can contact the winner. Underdog Fantasy 2. Scorchers has been a great new product for them. 5 for 5 pays out 100 times. The deposit bonus has been extended to $500 for a little bit longer. And we've got $100,000 Sundays as well. So watch along, make your picks, maybe make a little cash over on Underdog's mobile app or website. That's underdogfantasy.com. I haven't had a look at the NFL this week yet, Moon. I've been too baseball heavy, so I need to get some player props to throw out for underdog at the weekend. This game tonight, then, Houston plus 105 with Christian Javier pitching for them. Texas are minus 125. Max Scherzer draws the start here for Texas, and the total is set at 9. Obviously, Texas lead the series 2-0 with two really good wins in Houston. Christian Javier on the year for Houston is 10-4. He had a 4.56 ERA. Started 31 games, so he hung around a long time. 6-2 on the road, 4.91 ERA, and only faced Texas once, where he was thoroughly lit up. 4 1/3, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, 2 homers. 1 playoff appearance so far, 5 1/3 scoreless against Minnesota. Looking back, it's a really lopsided season that Javier threw out. Since June, he just hasn't had it at all. His June ERA, 5.79, July, 6.86, August, 6.17, September, 5.11. Looking back in the game log, I counted, and this is the Malcolm metric here, 2 good starts out in 19 for Javier. I mean, they're few and very, very far between. There's some huge walk numbers in there, including 5 last time at Minnesota. You look at that line, he's pitched 5 1/3 scoreless. You think, oh, yeah, great outing. He must have had all the control. He walked 5 batter. Now, I'm only seeing a plus 1.5 walk prop on Javier at the moment, which is minus 122. So unless I can find a plus 2.5 somewhere, I'm going to have to look elsewhere. This is his 16th postseason appearance, so he's bringing a lot of experience to the table. Max Scherzer, obviously been injured since the 12th of September. 12-6 on the year, 3.77 ERA. He had a bit of a mad season, really. He faced Houston twice, 6.55 ERA there, 10 hits over 11 innings. 7 times, Scherzer went out and gave up 5 or more runs. 7 times, Scherzer went out and threw a scoreless start. So, I mean, which one do we get? It's really, really hard. You said we talked about Merrill Kelly last night, Steady Eddie. Yeah, this is the exact opposite. He's been like a drunk driver. Scherzer himself says he doesn't know how far he's going to go in this game. He threw a live BP on Saturday, 65 to 70 pitches. So that's his out prop. I actually quite fancy fade in both the pitches here. But if you do think Scherzer's going to go well, the over 12.5 outs is minus 105. I think 70 pitches can get him there pretty comfortably. 4 1/3. 70 pitches seems reasonable. So if you like that, if you do think Scherzer's going to go well, over 12.5 outs is minus 105. So as far as the side, I mean, it's dead simple. We do this in the regular season, Muna. I prefer Scherzer to Javier, and I prefer Texas to Houston at the moment. Texas at minus 125 will be my pick. I like Texas first 5, same price, minus 125. So again, personal preference. If you've got one of those you like a little bit more, you can get the same price for Texas. And I think the total looks vulnerable, like I said. Over 9 for a game in which I do want to fade both pitches. I've got loads of player props and stuff to go through, Moon Up, but if you do you want to give us your overview, your side and total first?
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about during the regular season how the Astros were just better on the road this season. For whatever reason, they can't just win at home at Minute Maid Park this year. So, and we saw it, in Minnesota in the divisional round where they split the first 2 games at Minute Maid Park, and then they went into Minnesota and took care of business, won the series 3-1. I'm not sure if I can trust Scherzer to be warranted as a minus 125, minus 130 favorite in a game where he hasn't pitched for about a month. And we're not exactly sure how long he is going to go. And like you mentioned, which Scherzer are we going to get? We saw a Scherzer when he pitched against the Astros back in September 6th, where he gave up 8 runs, 6 or I think it was 7 earned runs he gave up to the Astros in a 3 1/3 innings pitched. And you mentioned Christian Javier. He really rises to the occasion, especially in the postseason. I know he didn't have a great regular season for the Astros. But if we go all the way back to the regular season, his last start against the Diamondbacks, that I think that is the Christian Javier we expect to see as Astros fan, where he shows up in big games. And we saw that again against Minnesota, despite having 5 walks that he gave up to the Minnesota Twins. They weren't able to take advantage of that. But now you can't do that against a Rangers team because they will make you pay. We've seen that already in the first 2 games of this series, where if you walk batters, the Rangers are going to take advantage of that. So I think for Christian Javier, and I mentioned this when you and I talked about game 1 with Verlander on the mound, that if he's able to settle in those first couple innings, then I think the Astros have a chance to win this game. But I have to take the plus odds here with the Astros. I think the bats show up in this game. I know we'll talk about player props here in a minute, but I just can't get behind a pitcher who's missed a month and be warranted as a minus 125, minus 130 favorite right now. So I think Javier shows up in this game. I think the bats show up big for the Astros as well. I'm going to go with the Astros with the plus price here. Definitely shop around because there's anywhere from plus 105 to plus 115 out there for the Astros. So I think they get on the board in this series. I think they make it a 2-1 series. And I think that Scherzer gives up a few early on. And I think the Astros bats will show up here tonight. So I'll take the Astros on the money line at plus 105, plus 110, wherever you do find the best number.
I think you've hit the right chords with the YouTube comments there, Moonaf. Swaggerhound and Case have recently joined. Afternoon, boys. How we doing? But everyone kind of agrees with you in the Stros rather than my Texas Rangers pick. Interesting. I've got some, like I say, I've got some player stuff.
Rattle it off.
Have a look out because again, the chat's pretty lit with the player props. Alex Bregman's been thrown out by Captain Insano. Michael Brantley. And Alvarez as well. Jason's chimed in with. So we can get a little bit deeper into that. I'll tell you about game time. The ticket people helping you get tickets for things like your MLB playoffs. You can get tickets for the Arizona game tomorrow for $24 if you want to get involved in that over at game time. So go and get involved. Flash deals, last minute tickets. Game time buying tickets easy for sport, music, comedy, any theatre near you. So you can forget planning in advance. A couple of taps on game time. You're in business and game time guarantee is outstanding. They'll credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Thing to do is download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So create an account, redeem the code CFBX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And finally, Hall of Fame bets. I'm helping you win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season. The sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Use the revolutionary parlay optimizer tool on Hall of Fame bets to get all your parlays broken down by hit rate, expected probability, value, players, which ones are hot and which aren't. Loads of great stuff on there. So visit hufbets.com or download the Hall of Fame Bets app to get 50% off your first month today with the code SGPN. Start researching and start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. Okay, so yeah, I quite like the... Matty's just made a great point in the chat that the picking a side does feel harder tonight than agreeing that team totals overs. So following that, like I said, I do kind of want to fade both pitchers. Now, one way we've been doing that in the playoffs is total outs, but I just didn't like it really. The Scherzer one is up in the air. We don't really know. And the line on the Javier one's horrible. It's a 12.5 and it's juiced. I don't like it at all. So I found the angle I found in Munaf is the pitcher earned runs. So if we want offensive team totals, or we want the game total, then pitcher earned runs overs is the way to go. I've got it over 2.5 earned runs for Javier is at minus 116, and over 1.5 earned runs for Scherzer is at even money, Munaf. So I think we can take both of them. Possibly get juiced out if Javier misses. Break even if only Scherzer hits. But I think there's huge potential for both of these cashing here, Munaf. So that would be my angle in of fading both pitchers to start with.
Yeah, I 100% agree about the Max Scherzer one. That was one of the player props I did have for this game. Over 1.5 earned runs allowed at even money. Currently over on DraftKings. And like you mentioned, I think that the Astros bats will be able to get the Scherzer here. Again, we're not sure if he's going to be on a pitch count or not, coming back from the shoulder injury, but I feel like that there may be some rust for Max Scherzer pitching in a live game, especially in a game where there's a very high implications here, especially for the Astros trying to get on the board here and doing their best to make this a competitive series. But I love that play of over 1.5 runs are allowed by Max Scherzer in this game. I was looking at his walks prop at, I think it was 1.5 at even money as well. Plus 1.5. Sorry, 1.5 over on his walks is plus 135. I think that's something that interests me for Max Scherzer, especially if early on, if he's kind of trying to shake off the rust after missing a month. Maybe he's not locating his fastball or some of his off-speed pitches very well. And if the Astros batters are able to stay patient, then maybe they can draw a couple walks here. So it almost seems like we're kind of fading Max Scherzer here, coming back from missing a month with a shoulder injury. But I really do love, like you mentioned, the over 1.5 earned runs allowed by Max Scherzer.
I think even if we were just handicapping Max Scherzer and he hadn't had this break, would still, I would say, lean towards fading him because he hadn't been brilliant. Like I say, maybe the kindest thing to say would be he's been up and down. We said 5 earned 7 times, 0 earned 7 times. You then factor in a month off.
Yeah.
And the fact it's a big playoff spot. And they both way down the side that we're trying to get. Obviously, the other way to fade the pitches here, Munaf, is to take batters to hit them around the park. Both of these pitches are prone to giving up some home runs. So looking on the Texas side of the ball first, I want nothing to do with Adolis Garcia. 2 for 17 off Javier. Nothing to do with Jonah Heim. Simeon's numbers at bang average against him. The ones I was drawn to, first up, is Seager. Corey Seager is 5 for 20 with 2 homers. He's plus 180 for over 1.5 hits and plus 265 to hit a home run. Josh Jung's done well against Javier in a small sample, 2 for 3. And the best value I played on him. Some of these, you find the stuff, but you've still got to find the right bet because it can be lopsided between total bases, total hits, runs, steals, whatever it is. Josh Jung, over half a run, was plus 145. I like that, especially if we're going to get a high-scoring game. Leody Taveras has been batting straight behind him, who's been going really well. And Taveras was another one. Taveras is 5 for 16 with a home run. He's been hitting bombs. He's 7 to 1 to hit a home run. He doesn't hit that many, but he can be a little bit streaky. So I like Taveras. On the other side of the ball, we've already mentioned Alvarez, 2 for 4 with a homer, but there's not much value in him really. The books are onto him. Everyone's onto him. It's not a surprise. Altuve is the one you'd fade, 2 for 20 against Scherzer. And he's in really poor form. He looks like a frog in a blender at the plate at the moment. So under half a hit, it's plus 165. It was a bet I went to with Tommy Pham last night and cashed it. So I'd take Altuve to flop tonight. And that led me to possibly my favourite pick on the card here, which is it's a match bet on Bet365 Munaf, which is Seager against Altuve in a total bases matchup. You can get Seager at minus 105. And I think that's a great pick. Of all the picks tonight, of all the coin flip picks, Seager to outbase, if that's a word, Altuve in a total base matchup at minus 105, Munaf.
Yeah, I think there was twice in game 2 where Seager hit singles the right side of the infield and Jose Abreu just wasn't able to get it to it, if I'm not mistaken. So I know Abreu's maybe not the greatest defensive first baseman for the Astros right now. Obviously, they're using him for his bat, but yeah, I don't hate that play. Again, Corey Seager has just been having an incredible season for the Rangers and also a great postseason thus far. You mentioned Yordan Alvarez. I think the way to maybe possibly attack him is taking his over half a walk. It's a little bit juiced at minus 125. But you mentioned the numbers about Yordan Alvarez against Max Scherzer, and 10 plate appearances, 7 official at-bats, 4 of 7, 3 singles. He has 3 walks in that span there as well. Max Scherzer has walked him 3 times in 10 plate appearances. So that's at minus 125 for over half a walk if you want to go it that way. I mean, I think we saw this in the Twins series, and a lot of people just kept on mentioning why do they keep pitching to Yordan Alvarez after he's just ripping the cover off of the baseball. So maybe they're a little more careful if there's a couple guys on base, or if there's a guy in scoring position that they, pitch around him and put him on base. And he draws a walk that way. So I'm looking at that Yordan Alvarez. I know a lot of guys mentioned Michael Brantley, who has great numbers against Max Scherzer throughout his career, 20 of 54. He has 8 doubles, 8 singles, 3 home runs, 4 walks. His total bases are at half, but I think that if you want to attack it in a different way, DraftKings lets you pick singles. If a batter's going to hit a single or a double, Michael Brantley to hit a single is at minus 115, and for him to hit a double is at let's see where'd it go. Michael Brantley plus 450. So if you want to, those are the 2 options. If you want to attack Michael Brantley that way, especially instead of having to pay the minus 200 juice on Michael Brantley there. But yeah, those are the 2 that I was looking at. I'm going to try to find, and I think that the DraftKings has it at 2.5 for Christian Javier's walks. That is at minus 120. Sorry, that it's at minus 1.5, but I'm trying to find a 2.5. Try to get it down to maybe even.
That's what more. I couldn't find. Yeah, that's why I tried to find different angles in, because it was over just over a half. I think over what it was rubbish wherever it was. But I needed to find that 2.5.
Yeah, so right now it's at 1.5 at minus 220. But if you're able to find a 2.5 on his walks, I think that's also worth a look. Also on DraftKings, there's first earned run allowed between these 2 pitchers. Javier's at minus 115, and Scherzer at even money. I could see a world where the Astros score 1 in that first inning, whether it's a home run or they get a couple guys on base, and they're able to drive in runs that way. And we saw that, I think it was the game 3 in Minnesota, coming off with a loss. They scored, I think, 4 in the first inning, and then the rest of the game was history. But again, this is a different animal in the Texas Rangers. So I think we're all kind of in agreement about fading Max Scherzer here, especially him, like I mentioned multiple times about him missing an entire month with that shoulder injury.
Yeah, it looks that way. I mean, everyone's on the same side, certainly in terms of runs, early runs, short outings, walks, hits. It's all pointing towards a shootout, and like you say, everyone's pretty much in agreement. So yeah, fingers crossed that game will follow that script. We'll all cash 3 or 4 of these at least. Moonaf, looking forward to it. I think we're done. A little steady half an hour, Moonaf, on this one game. Is there anything else you want to tell the people about?
No, I think that wraps it up. I know it's going to be alternating, I think, between I think we get 2 games tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because Astros are in Arlington, obviously, for games 3 and 4, and then it's a travel day for the Phillies and the Diamondbacks. So tomorrow we'll have 2 games, an early start tomorrow between the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, and the nightcap we'll have the Astros and the Rangers. I want to say it's going to be Arcady tomorrow for the Astros, but I'll double check that. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. But yeah, 1 game tonight, 2 tomorrow. So again, like I mentioned, we're getting ever so closer to the World Series here, Mel. Yeah,
fantastic. Thanks, Moonaf. Thank you, everyone who joined us. Appreciated all the input. It's nice to get some validation. Let's just get a run fest tonight, and we'll cash all of these over everything's. Back tomorrow. Enjoy the games. Good luck with all your bets, people, and we'll see you down the road. Cheers.